So, welcome to a very special deep dive on the North Node and specifically on its movement in Vedic astrology into Shatabhishak Nakshatra. Now, this is significant because it will affect us, particularly around February, at quite a collective level, but you'll start to feel inklings of this movement from the 23rd of November. So let's dive into it. On the 23rd of November until the 2nd of August, Rahu, which is the North Node or the sign of destiny, the node of destiny, of illusion, of Maya, and it's quite a malefic planet, a shadow planet. It's going to move into a part of Aquarius, like it's been sitting in Aquarius for a while, but it's going to move into a part of Aquarius called Shatabhishak Nakshatra. And so this video, we're going to talk about what we can expect, how we can work with this energy, because really astrology is the study of cosmic potentials. So the stars and the nodes of the moon are always showing us like the potential of the timing of the karma that sits at a collective level as well as at a personal level. So the nodes, for those of you familiar or unfamiliar, which are the South Node or Ketu and Rahu, the North Node, they always sit opposite each other. They mark the points where the sun and moon's ecliptics overlap. And so Rahu is the northern point of the sun's ecliptic and moon's ecliptic. And these really get activated during eclipse seasons. They kind of sit there and they stir for us to work with karma, with liberation, as well as to face the ignorance of our own mind. Particularly the North Node does that. But they get really strong during eclipse seasons. And that's why eclipse seasons are so chaotic, because it's like these two nodes' energies get released. And they're often described as like the head and tail of the dragon or the head and tail of the snake. And if you think of it, when Rahu gets activated, it's like the venom or the poison of the mind, the poison of the head of the snake gets released. And that poison is actually there for us to heal. It's not something scary or something to fear. Everything the planets are doing is divine and it is all there for liberation. So the North and South Node, they're really these points of destiny. They affect the karma that we're dealing with at a personal but also collective level. And Rahu, in particular, the North Node, really deals with karmic energy which has been set in motion by us from past lives, that's there for our evolution. It represents how we are to grow in our consciousness, as well as the ignorance that naturally lives in the mind. Because in Vedic astrology, Rahu or the North Node is the head without a body. And so when we think about that, we probably all have the experience. Like we live in a very Rahu collective culture where most of us are at desk jobs. Most of us over intellectualize and overthink a lot of what is happening in the world, and we create more Maya. And we could essentially live without our bodies a lot of the time, myself included, which is why embodiment is so important during this particular collective energy. So generally, Rahu or the North Node is seen as being more impactful than the South Node because Rahu expands, whereas the South Node contracts and sends us in on ourselves. Now, both the North and South Node are known as shadow planets. And so although we should be able to feel the subtle shift of Rahu moving into Shatabhishak, which, like I said, is a subpart of Aquarius. And I should mention Shatabhishak is a nakshatra. A nakshatra is essentially a 13.5-degree part of the zodiac. And it kind of explains, like it's the original zodiac, there were 27 signs, but it kind of explains why, not all Aquarius energy is the same. And so each nakshatra really deals with a different karma, a different shakti or power that we're working with, and different energy around those karmas. And so Shatabhishak is this subset within Aquarius. We can think of it like that. And that's the energy that we're going to be starting to feel with the North Node moving into that place in Aquarius on the 23rd. On the 23rd of November. Just expect that at the beginning from the 23rd of November to kind of February, the energy can be really soft, but I would be saying pay attention, and I'll give you hints as to what to pay attention to. Because the more we can work with this energy now, the more we can proactively get on top of it, the easier eclipse season is going to be in February to March next year, when that Shatabhishak energy will be really strong because Rahu will be activating it. So I would be saying, like, if you can and you're inspired by this video, or at least like gets you thinking about your connection to the cosmos, consider not waiting for eclipse season in February, March, but actually starting to work with the energy of Shatabhishak and Rahu, which deals with health, which is why this is important. So if you know there's something in your health and well-being that you need to get on top of, and that could be as simple as like mental health or spiritual health, or going for a walk each day, or exercising and moving the body, or creating some space in your work so that you can actually care for yourself or have a kind of like self-care routine, these things can all support the energy that Shatabhishak will bring out in February. And I would be saying, like, from the 23rd of November, just pay attention to the little whispers of the body. You know, Shatabhishak is associated with a healing crisis. We will definitely be experiencing that as a collective. But all of these energies are divine, and we can always work with them at a higher aspect, and we can work with them to work through our thoughts, to work with the energy that they're trying to help us with, clear out of our body, our mind, out of the ignorance of our being. So the thing to remember with the North Node is the North Node's energy is a funny one in Vedic astrology. It differs a little bit from Western. You know, Western, we often talk about the North Node as it's your soul purpose, it's your destiny. And in Vedic astrology, which predates that thinking, it says yes, but also. Rahu, or the North Node, will give you what you want, but there's always a price to pay. So this is always, whenever we're working with the nodes or working with eclipses, we want to be really careful of what we're asking for. And it's also not about avoiding the karma that you have, because when we avoid the karma, it will come around in a different way. So it's not necessarily a period of time where we want to be saying to the universe, hey, make sure this thing doesn't happen, or I don't want to have to change my routine, or I don't want to have to listen to the whispers of my body. Can you just make that go away? That's not really the role of the planet, because you're responsible for your karma. The planet isn't. The planet, just like Rahu with this transit, the planet is like the postman coming to deliver the mail that you sent to yourself. And so ultimately, it's through actions in past lives that then come about in karma in this life. And we don't get all of our karma in every life. We just get enough for what we can handle, our capacity. So so it's like the North Node coming to deliver this karma, which is particularly related to your health, your well-being, to what you're suppressing within your body, what you're suppressing within your mind, and even how you might not be listening to a healing crisis that you know is coming for you. Now, why we don't want to avoid our karma as well is we don't actually know if it's good or bad. So we can say that, you know, something not going our way is bad, but we actually don't know, because in the long run, not getting what we want very often turns out to be an incredible blessing. And what I want to put on top of that is, like, as much as there is a big focus in our collective culture around predictive astrology and guessing world events, guessing, you know, what's going to happen in the financial market or what's happening with celebrities. Astrology, the heart of astrology, is actually not about prediction. It is a spiritual tool. It is from the Vedas. It is the eye of the Vedas. And it's very much about being able to understand and take responsibility for your karma, knowing that the ultimate journey is one to self-realization. That is what all the planets and all the mail that they deliver to you is about: realization of self. So what we want during this period of time, when with any planetary transit we might be in, but also with the North Node, it's really like just having the courage to work with the karma that we've got. And what the North Node does at an evolutionary perspective is, it actually, as much as it takes us into the world, because it's the mind and it's a very heady energy, it actually, its desire is to lead us into detachment from the world. But it does that by kind of calling us deeper into life, you know, deeper into the body in this instance, deeper into our well-being. Um, deeper into attachment, desire of how we want it to be, even fear and compulsive behaviors. The beauty of Rahu, or the North Node, is it actually brings us into this world of attachment. So with Rahu and Shatabhishak, it can be this kind of world of attachment to the body, attachment to how I think my health needs to be, how my mind's meant to be, the way in which I'm meant to be a good person, the way in which the people around me are meant to be quote unquote good in the eyes of the ego. Um, and it can lead us into those attachments so that we can ultimately leave them alone, so that we can ultimately shift into a higher consciousness. So, what does Rahu and Shatabhishak mean? So, Shatabhishak, as that part of Aquarius, it's known as the star of 100 cures or 100 medicines or 100 healers. And it generally brings with it a need to heal. And knowing that Rahu represents the head, we can pretty much assume that what needs healing is our thinking, is maybe our psychological health, injuries around the head, things that we need to clear up in our ignorance around the world. And what Shatabhishak tends to do is it will bring about an inner or an outer healing crisis, depending on what we need, depending on our chart. That doesn't necessarily have to be medical or psychological, it can even be spiritual. And in fact, it can be deeply spiritual. Even this like drive that can come about with North Node in Shatabhishak, which is like the desire to know what is true and what is false, needing guidance upon the path, and even a crisis which can almost be existential, like the big question of like, why am I here and what do I do with that? And is there even an answer? Shatabhishak, now, why I wanted to make this video is that Shatabhishak has a very special relationship with Rahu because Rahu rules Shatabhishak. So the energy of the North Node, Rahu, will be really strong. It can show us where we have wrong karmas that we need to fix from past lives. And I want to say with that, when we do encounter difficulty, very often it doesn't make sense. It can be like what have I done to deserve this is very often the thing that comes up. And first of all, we can't know that that karma is actually bad. And second of all, we can know that it is a result of our actions, either in this life, but most likely in past lives. And what we can do to make it easier to work with that karma is accept full responsibility for it. Accept that we are karmically responsible for it, even if we don't know why or what we've done. We don't need to know. Doesn't help. Sometimes the overthinking just kicks in. So this Rahu's period in Shatabhishak is really going to show us things we need to fix, things we need to change and work through in order to return ourselves back to harmony, in order to return the body, mind, and spirit back to a sense of harmony. Now, it's ruled by the god Varuna, and most of us know Varuna as like a water god or the element of water, but he's also the god of sin, and the god of healing. He rules debts, diseases, and he operates in a way like we have to remember as well, like to take the fear away from this discussion. Sin is a concept of Maya or the mind. It's not real. Everything is a result of action. And on top of that, disease is not necessarily bad. Sometimes getting sick, like getting a flu, helps heal the body. So it's actually, it rids it of what's in it, of old cells, so that it can operate in greater harmony. So just, I want to use those words, but I just want to be very careful with how I use them. They're not to create like a fatalistic view of what is coming, but rather to open your mind. Now, Varuna kind of operates in a way where this deity, this divine energy which rules Shatabhishak, is really there to teach us as well as help us remove disease, irritation, the idea of sin from our life. It helps us remove and cleanse and clear these, but there has to be a crisis to bring that about so that our attention is focused on that. You can also find that this is a period where you find that you might need to work through karmas and challenges which present as like an existential crisis or a healing crisis, but they're actually there to help you build stronger foundations in your life. Like they're holding a bigger hope, promise, and potential. Added to that, it can also be a period where you explore healing modalities. That's one of the beautiful ways in which Shatabhishak is used. And it's not just allopathic or traditional medicine, because we're talking about a star which is about the 100 cures or the 100 medicines. If you already have an interest in healing, you might find that you broaden that into different aspects and areas. And maybe it's looking at Ayurveda, maybe it's looking at TCM or plants or herbs or nature or new therapies or old unconventional therapies, or bringing two medicines together to create something else. And that can be you learning that for yourself, but it can also be, in one of the ways the universe loves us to learn about healing is through our own body and mind, actually learning about those cures and medicines through our own healing journey so that we can then help and support others through that. Now, this is a really important period of not hiding or feigning that everything is okay. This is one of the things that can come with Shatabhishak. Shatabhishak is really going to highlight to you both sides of yourself, the side that you hide and the side that you're kind of fine with. So it wants you to show both your deva qualities, your angelic qualities, as well as your asuric qualities or egoic qualities, knowing we all hold both. Not like none of us are perfect in this realm. And it can be a call for you to really acknowledge these both and be authentic in them, as well as not to hide the struggle that you might be having, but actually ask for help. Tell a friend, tell a partner, contact a doctor. It's that type of thing, or contact a therapist. Like, it's really sharing what's going on for you and not trying to feign that you're all good. At a collective level, this can really highlight the good and bad. In big public figures. There can also be a big collective issue that needs to be healed, and that might be medicinal, but it could also be psychological. It can also be something to do with that, like that asuric tendency or that egoic tendency in the collective that actually needs to see the light and be healed. Um, there can be also, interestingly, a bigger trend within the collective about turning within, about exploring well-being and health, and even spending time in a more spiritual or mindful capacity and greater connection to the cosmos, which I'm praying will come about in the collective. Now, key dates to watch out for. So this energy will be activated with the eclipse season, so it will really be set off on the 16th to 17th of February. 2026. We'll have a solar eclipse in Dhanishta, which is in Aquarius. It's right next to Shatabhishak, and it's close enough that will affect it. And it will activate Rahu. And then on the 3rd of March, 2026, we're going to have a lunar eclipse, and the sun will be with the North Node in Shatabhishak. So we can guarantee this period, February 16th, 17th to March 3rd, is going to present quite a significant healing crisis for the collective, and personally, a time to really look at yourself. Now, what we can do is we can start to work with this energy now, particularly if you know, like if you know you're in a Rahu Mahadasha, if you know you have Rahu as your Antardasha or Bhukti, if you know that you're in your North Node or South Node returns, which happens every 18 and a half years, these are going to be really big things. Or if you know that the North Node is going to be passing over a significant planet you've got in Aquarius, like maybe you have your Sun, your Moon, or Mercury in Aquarius, this is going to be really important for you, because we can talk about things at a general level, but then we have to go down to a chart level to really understand how it's going to affect an individual. Now, if you want to know, if you don't know what Mahadasha, how you're influenced by the North Node, you can book in a reading. Details are below for just a one-on-one. It can be just an energy update reading just to look at Rahu, or if you want to go deeper, we can absolutely do that. That said, for all of us, we can really start to work with the energy of the North Node or Rahu in Shatabhishak from the 23rd. Really noticing subtly, because it will be very subtle until it gets fully activated in February, March, just noticing at a subtle level what's showing up in the body. What's coming to surface well-being wise? What are you questioning about your existence? What are you uncomfortable with in life? Where are you overthinking something? This will be what Shatabhishak is showing you. And just know you can start to address these things now. Like if you know that you've been wanting to work with a therapist for a while, but you just haven't had the push to do it, it can be a great time to start that before eclipse season. If you know you need to exercise a little bit more regularly, also good. If you know you haven't been to the doctors in a while and you need a checkup, or you need to do some self-care work, or you've been really stressed, get on top of those things now if you can, if you feel the call before eclipse season comes, because you'll really be able to work better with that cosmic energy. Now, in terms of some remedial measures or ways to work with this energy in your chart, like first of all, it's going to really depend on your chart. It will depend on what your north node looks like. It will depend on what dasha, mahadasha, mukti that you're in, which is just the timing in Vedic astrology. So we need to really look at the chart as a whole. But you can easily, as a starting point, work with the mantra for Rahu. It's a pretty uh, important measure. Like any form of sadhana or spiritual practice will help Rahu, but working with the Rahu mantra can be really important. If you don't know the Rahu mantra, I will put a link below to the Navagraha. It's self-guided mantra and astrology course. It's below. It's something that myself and mantra teacher Siddhi Shakti ran earlier this year. It was phenomenal, but in that we look at all the planetary mantras. And so if doing that course, not only will you be able to do the Rahu mantra, but you'll also get an indication of other mantras that will be helpful for you. It's also really important as a remedial measure in general, just to do some mindful practice, to offer something up to something that is greater than you, to the divine that is greater to you, the greater than you. And even offering that up to Varuna, the deity, the divine character that rules Shatabhishak, calling upon Varuna and his healing capacity to help. And you might invoke him through prayer, offer things up to him, do puja for him, seek guidance from him, as a means to also remediate and work with the energy of Rahu and Shatabhishak. Now, you can learn more about the nodes. You can learn more about Vedic astrology and the nakshatras through a one-on-one reading. It's the easiest way to do it. And it would be my absolute pleasure to guide you if that's what you feel called to do. I'll put the details below. I'm wishing you all the best with this incredible karmic Rahu in Shatabhishak energy.